Hello, after weeks of hard work, PrimeReact 7 is finally out. In this video, we will cover what's new and what's coming up. And to start with, the highlight of PrimeReact 7 is the new data table. We have re-implemented the filtering, it's all new, and also scrolling as well. So let's start with data table scrolling. So in the past, we have separate tables for scrolling. So for the header section, we have a separate table, and for the body and for the footer, we have separate tables. So we have at least two separate tables. And if you add the frozen columns and frozen rows to the mix, you will end up a lot of different tables that need to be aligned. But with PrimeView and PrimeNG, we have migrated them to position sticky, and it solves all the problems. So we now have single table. The code base is much more smaller, and it just works really, really fast because the rendering, we are only rendering one table. So this is horizontal scrolling. In the flexible mode, in the previous versions, we had fixed scroll height. Now it can be in the flex mode, it can be flexible. So suppose that it is in a dialog. If I maximize it, in the past it was cut off. Now it can span the full height of its container. Horizontal and vertical with footer, it's quite nice. If you have a lot of columns, you will need some extra space. That's where this comes in. Frozen rows is one of my new favorite features because it's quite dynamic. For example, we have the first row is locked, and I can also lock any row I want and also unlock it. But you can also do it in limits. So I cannot fix more than 2 rows. So it can be all dynamic depending on your requirements. Frozen columns, it's also a must-have these days. It was a pain to implement, but now with the new technique that we're using, it's quite nice and it's quite dynamic as well. For example, the name is frozen, but I can also freeze balance here. And in the past, we can also freeze columns on the left side. Now we can also do it on the right side as well. And it can be dynamic. Subheader grouping is something I did for PrimeView in the past, and now it's also available for PrimeReact. So suppose that you're using the subheader grouping feature, and if you add scrolling, if you enable scrolling, you will end up with subheader groups scroll as long as their children are visible. So it's quite nice. I like the UX of this. And also you can add the frozen summary rows as well. For example, this one's displaying the number of total customers. The virtual scroll has been retouched. For example, now we have 100,000 rows. It's preloaded. If you try to render it without virtual scroll, it will be really, really slow. But with virtual rendering, as long as you scroll down or scroll up, PrimeReact table fetches the data from your preloaded data and just renders it. If you can also do it with a remote data source as well. So using the skeleton component, you can display loading screens. So personally, I'm really happy with the current state of the data table. PrimeReact data table was lacking the features of the PrimeView and the PrimeNG. Now it has reached the same level as those, and more stuff are coming soon. Also, one of my other favorite features is the advanced filtering that I call. So we had this in the past, which is like, for example, this is also new. So filtering comes in 2 flavors. One is the filter row, where you have a separate row, and other is this small filter icons that displays a filter overlay. So let's check out the filter row. For example, let's see what we have. Starts with James. And search by country, agent, Ioni, for example, select status qualified, and you can remove filters as well. So this was kind of available without this filter constraints. So in the past we only had this input fields and some drop down and no dynamic filter constraints. The filter constraints like this contains, not contains, was defined in the column. Now it can be dynamic so that your users can select them on the fly. But then if you like something more advanced, that's the filter overlay. So if you check out the code of this, the filter, let's check out the table. We have two tables here. One table is using filter display menu, the other is using filter display row. So if you set filter display menu, and we have fully customizable filter overlays. So in the menu mode, the data table renders a small filter icon. If you set it, we have types, like for strings, we have separate constraints. For dates, we have separate constraints. For numbers as well. For example, this one's saying in this mode, the constraints are rendered inside. Let's say starts with J, and you say, let's say apply. And now I can say also add a new rule saying ends with let's say K. Okay, I have two records, and now the country overlay demo is using how you can customize with slots templating. In agents, you can display your own UI elements like PrimeReact components or other. The one thing I like is the date has date is before, let's call it, you can also use calendar here. This one should filter both. They're both available. The numbers are special. For example, I would like to display data whose balance is more than $50,000. So let's say greater than 50K. Now I'm using the input number component, and I only get Gina. And as I mentioned, you can display custom components, like, let's say, I hope that, okay, and verified and things like that. So the nice thing about it is that you can add rules. You can change how the rules are matched. So you can have any or all using and or operator. So plus you can also have the good old global filter. So for example, you can James here. We filter out the Jane, or you just search for the same agents. So it's a quick filter that looks at all the columns. That's it for the data table. So we have two major features. Filtering is all new, plus scrolling is all new as well. We have a lot of new features on these, and they work much really performant. And the next thing is something I contributed, which is the new Lara theme. So we had, if you check out the themes, let's check out this one form. We had somewhere from layout demo. Okay. So we have this new theme. Lara. We have the purple mode. Maybe if I can find something, maybe with buttons and things. So this is the purple Lara, this is the indigo Lara. We also have the dark modes, and we also have the purple mode as well. And it's in a modernized version of the Prime 1 theme. So if you compare with Saga, Lara is bigger and the colors are more modern, and it focuses on accessibility as well. For example, if you check out the buttons, we just add a box shadow, but sometimes it may not be super visible. But now with Lara, we have done something like we added use the box shadow around with a gap, so it's more visible. And also the colors are much more vibrant, and it's based on some its emphasis is on accessibility. Okay, that's it. Of course, if you check out the PrimeReact, let's check out the source code. and check out the changelog. I mean, lot of maintenance fixes and TypeScript enhancements as well. This is, if you check out the 7.0 changelog, you will see that there are a lot of new features plus a huge number of defect fixes as well. If you edit the RC releases as well, there's a lot of enhancements. So thanks for the PrimeReact community for reporting issues and things like that. What's coming up for future? So good news is that we have a new full-time developer will be joining us for PrimeReact especially. So we will have around 4 full-time developers working on PrimeReact from now on. I will also contribute more. And the thing is that our components are right now class-based. React thankfully supports class-based and hook-based components as well. For you, it doesn't really matter because for the page authors, we also provide class examples, hooks examples with TypeScript and browser, a lot of options available. But I think we've decided to enhance our components code base using hooks as well. So it will take a couple of weeks and we will rewrite the code base using hooks. We have already done it and it's a straightforward process, nothing major. Although it sounds like a major rewrite, it's not really that tricky. And the next thing is I can summarize it in 3 words: accessibility, accessibility, and accessibility. So we are checking out, I think it's the time, maybe a bit late, but I think it's time that we have accessibility already available, but it may not be fully compatible with this latest specifications. So we will have, the specifications here. There are some a lot of examples for accessibility using accessible rich internet applications attributes, ARIA roles and attributes, plus the keyboard accessibility. So once we have enhanced the components based on the updated specification, we will add some accessibility documentation here somewhere, and that will document what levels of accessibility is supported, which roles and attributes are supported. We will check it out against screen readers, and we will also document everything we have done regarding accessibility, and also the keyboard support will be everything documented. We also have we currently have keyboard support in majority of the places, but they're not documented. So we should, overall, in short, the emphasis will be on accessibility for the upcoming months. So this also applies to PrimeView, PrimeFace, and Prime NG as well, but we will start with PrimeReact. So we will do the work on PrimeReact and port it to the other libraries. So the estimate is Q1 2022, next year. The work begins in 2 weeks after the hooks migration, and that will be the sole focus of our team, which is expanding, and it will help us that while certain members of our team is working on accessibility, other members can keep an eye on GitHub issue trackers, keep an eye, do the regular maintenance releases and do the improvements. So to wrap up something, 2 new, design related things. Atlantis template is out. It's my favorite right now, my favorite application template for PrimeReact. It's out for PrimeReact. You also have the light mode as well, but I prefer the dark mode. And you have a lot of widgets, a lot of options, slim mode, static mode, different modes with different layout themes and component themes as well. That's out, plus the new PrimeBlocks version 2, which is released just yesterday. This one. The PrimeReact UI blocks is a set of they're not necessarily components, but they're copy paste ready UI blocks. What you can do with is that, for example, a hero section of a landing page, or the pricing section, feature section, sign-in forms. These are more like the marketing blocks. It comes in two groups right now: application and marketing. It starts with the application UI, and if you can check out the marketing pages, you have hero sections. So they're not components, but they're meant to be customized. So you can wrap them inside you can easily create your component. They're powered by PrimeFlex as well, our CSS utility library. It's basically a CSS, as I mentioned, CSS utility library where let's check out the free blocks to give you an idea. This is free, for example. So this is a block. It's basically a set of divs in CSS, and CSS is PrimeFlex with responsiveness built in. So many of the blocks usually contain PrimeReact components as well. So the cool thing about with new release is that we have added a lot of new blocks. For example, if you check out the navbars, we had only have 3 in the past. Now we have more and more, and they are fully responsive. You can get these and create your own application in no time. And we also have new sidebar layouts. So these are basically starters. There are actually a couple of maybe this one is like 200 lines at most. You can just copy and paste it and it will just work, because there's no custom CSS to put somewhere else. There's no custom JavaScript involved a lot, because everything is built in. Even the toggling of these menus, you don't need to worry about it, because there's a style class, a higher order component in PrimeReact that handles it for you. And what you can do with it, you can do sample dashboards. Everything here is a block. Just copy and paste it and you will be ready to go. They're meant to be copied and pasted. And even we have some landing pages. I will create 2 separate videos for Prime blocks. We will implement this landing page in maybe 10 minutes, and also do an application layout with sidebar. So a lot of things going on in the PrimeReact landscape. We have the new release, new blocks, new themes, and the roadmap is crystal clear. We will have new hooks migration and wrap it up with accessibility. And hopefully in 2020, the community will grow and grow, and hopefully realize the power of PrimeReact in the next year. So a lot of work to do. So that's it for this one, and see you on the next tutorial. Thank you.